What we're going to do now is spend the time locking down some of our poses so we can prevent major sliding in our animation. Let's go to our perspective camera, and what we're going to do, okay, we'll start the animation back from the beginning. We could even hide the NURBS curve, so we could just look at the character. We'll turn on or activate the top Watchman node, and with that selected, what we're going to do is basically apply smooth interpolation to our character just to see how this is looking and where we need to lock down our poses. So once we have the Watchman node selected, we can get to the graph editor. Even by the command line, we can type in graph editor, okay, as follows, then hit enter, and there we are. So now if we select the top node, we won't see any of the keys, but if we open this up, we can get to the sub character sets where we see the keys of this character. Okay, but we'll still be able to select this top node and be able to apply a smooth interpolation to it. So we'll apply plateau. It's going to be what we're going to be using to smooth out our animation. But once we have selected the node, applied plateau, let's go ahead and see how this is all coming together. So we can always just hit play. Alright, we see the feet sliding up. Okay, the character really looks like he's flying for a majority of the time. So here's why we want to lock down our poses. And this is also going to help with timing and spacing. So let's get right to it. We can go ahead and go back to the graph editor. And then I even like to use a hotkey as well for it. Usually I use a Control-Alt-A, so you can always add a hotkey if you like. But we'll bring our interpolation back to stepped so we can see everything blocked out. And from here, we can start, again, just blocking in everything. Let's see. Before the feet shift, we're going to want them to continue to be planted. Let's go ahead and bring back our curves, and we'll turn off our character set node. So we'll go ahead and select the feet, and they're going to start moving up at 95. At least one of the feet are. So we'll go to about the point where the cardboard starts to fall over on 91, and press Shift W and Shift D to lock in the feet there. And then we can go to the center of gravity control and look at this. Okay, so let's say here at about frame 30, we press Shift W and Shift D to lock in that, so there's not really any movement until it comes time for it. We could even check the back control out and do the same. Press Shift W and Shift D. Okay, great. Then we'll continue. So, and we don't want to, again, lock down everywhere because some areas are going to be nice to leave left alone. We may get some nice subtleties leaving them. So let's see, as the feet falls, let's go ahead and check this planted foot. We'll select the knee control and the foot control. Okay, so just prior to the character jumping up on about frame 100, we can press Shift W and Shift D to lock in the feet and the knee control there. And as we move forward where the character plants his feet, where he gets shocked, we're going to have him stay in this pose for a little bit longer until he goes into the next pose where he sees what he's done. So let's go ahead and select our feet controls here. And at about, let's say, frame 130, we'll lock in that, pressing Shift W and Shift D. Alright, and before we get any further, we can go ahead and look at other areas of the character, like the back control. Okay. Looks like at about frame 70 for the back control, we can also lock that in with Shift W and Shift E. And possibly do the same for the upper body on the same frame, frame 70. Okay, now we surprised. And here's where the feet were really sliding up. So we're going to want to lock them down here. So let's look at this. As the character looks over, or even before he turns around, let's go ahead and on 130 with the back control, being that there's no pose there, therefore we're going to get much sliding. We'll also lock that in. And let's see, we want to add a little bit of motion before he looks up. So I'd say on about 150, can add just a little bit of movement here, just so that we can keep the character moving, but not much at all. Because remember, this is really just a moving hold. But with moving holds, we don't want it to come to a complete stop, so we just add just a little bit of movement. Okay, and both the translate and rotation attributes. For the head, maybe move that down ever so slightly, being that it's going to move up on 160 on about that time. The feet, looking at them, will definitely need to make sure that they're planted. Okay, won't need to select the knees just yet. But with the feet, we'll want to make sure that they're in this pose. To about 170, we'll press Shift W and Shift E. Lock them in. Let's go to the knees now. Remember, the knees, we actually had them, as the character looks up here, we actually had them move in. But before that happens, let's even go to, again, about 150, and we'll press just Shift W to lock in their translate values. Great, now as the character pulls himself up, we'll want to lock in his feet here. Remember, he was flying all over the place here. So just before he starts to run, let's go to 230, and we'll lock in our pose here. And then we can add a little bit of movement to the upper body. We may even change this pose, but we'll see about that. But right now we'll just, again, add a little bit of rotation and just something to work as a nice moving hold for us. Okay. Now we want to make sure that the hands are going to be locked there, so we'll press Shift W and Shift D, and we'll also key our follow hip switch. For the fingers, we'll just select both of those and press S to key all of to just lock them in there. For the head, we can go ahead and just add a little bit of change there. Okay, now so for the hands, let's go ahead and look at them again, just to make sure that they switch back to world at the right time. What we could actually do is take the hands, let's select both of those, and move them over so that they lie on frame 240. So we'll just move that over, and if you need to, you could always change your range slider so that they have it at the right time. Okay, great. Alrighty, and we should be just about done with this. What we could even do is, from here, is just go ahead and look at our progress. So we'll go back to the Watchman node. We'll go ahead and go to the graph editor. Okay, we can deselect what we have selected to just select this node, apply another plateau tangent, and can hide our controls if we like and just hit play. And as you can see, everything is looking even much better than it did before. For the arm, and we can just work on the arm to finish this up. For the arm, we're not going to want that to come back as it is until it's time. So let's turn off our character set node. And let's see. We want the arm to come in at about 270 or 271 or so. So knowing that, we'll not want it to come in at around 260 where the character exits. So let's go to 240. We'll middle click on 260. Press Shift W and Shift E to lock in the hand there. Okay, we'll even select its elbow control, which is right here at the top of the character's head, which we can also move over on 260. Let's just move that over to the side. So the character doesn't bring his arm back until after that. Okay, great. Alright, so everything's coming together quite well. What we'll do now is make sure that we bring the character back to his blocking phase. So going back to the Watchman node, go to the command line, just hit up arrow. We can do that to quickly get back to the graph editor command that we've run. Go back to the Watchman node and select stepped, or you can always go to tangent stepped. Okay, and now he's blocked again. And now we've gone ahead and locked his poses in, so it's going to make it easier for us to now go from the blocking phase to the smooth phase, which can be a complicated task at times. So we just learned a little trick to help us to have a much more comfortable process in that. Well, that finishes this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to bring our attention to now animating and finishing up the fall of the cardboard.